Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Krista Kurlinkas, and I want to thank you so much for joining me. I am super excited to have you here today. I've worked for weeks on this special masterclass, and I can't wait to share it with you. Now, because you took the time to show up here today, I bet you are likely the type of person who is willing to invest in yourself for this time together in order to learn something that can become a crucial piece of your revenue generation if you do it right. Because I have designed this masterclass to be immediately actionable, I've created a webinar workbook that will give you a place to take notes on the 6 steps and write down your ideas for how you will implement them as soon as the webinar is over. If you haven't downloaded your action guide from the emails I sent you leading up to this webinar, you can download it right now by clicking on the link that is popping up for you now. Since you're already in here, I recommend simply downloading it and typing directly on it on your PDF viewer. Okay, I'll give you a second to do that and then we will come back to this. Since I want you to get the most you possibly can from this training, before we get started, I'd love for you to turn off everything in the background of your computer, including email systems, Skype, music, and any other programs that are open. That way you won't have any problems with buffering and you'll have great streaming quality in this class. The second thing is that I want you to silence your phone, close your door, and take this time for yourself so you can learn some new grant writing strategies. I know it can be hard, but if you focus with me here, I promise I'll make it worth every second of your time. All right, you probably have your action guide downloaded by now. Before we start going through the 6 steps, I want you to turn to the very last page and fill in the first box, which asks you about what you could do if you had a grant writing system that helped you generate consistent revenue. You don't have to share that information with me or anyone in this training, but just write it down there and keep it in mind as we go through these 6 steps. This is what you are working toward today. Okay, so before we get started with my strategies, I'm really curious. Have you applied for a grant before? So go ahead and type it in the chat box. Have you ever applied for a grant to support your nonprofit work, or maybe your academic research, or if you work for a government agency, a program that you run there? Okay, so I'm looking at your comments and I'm seeing a lot of no's, which is perfect. You are in the right place. But I'm also seeing quite a few yeses. Now, for those of you who have written a grant before, those yeses, are you happy with either your success rate or the amounts that you're winning per award? Okay, so some of you are saying no. I see a bunch of no's, even some sad faces. I don't want you to be sad. We are going to fix this right away. So, for all of you that have written grants and are not happy with your success rate or are not happy with the dollar amounts you're receiving, we're going to talk about how to boost that rate and how to increase the dollar amounts you win on each grant. Now, how about those of you who have never written a grant before but really needed to? I want to know what has stopped you. So go ahead and type in the comments, what has stopped you from writing your first grant besides you've never needed to before? There's an answer that always pops up in the chat when I ask this, and it's not knowing where to find grants. Not having access to good search tools stops a lot of us in our tracks, and I'm going to talk about that. I promise you, searching for grants can be easier and more affordable than you think. So we will definitely get into that right at the beginning. But I'm also seeing things in the comments like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what is required in a grant application. So if you are confused about what to include in a grant proposal, I'm going to tell you exactly what is in most grant proposals. These are all real concerns for sure that you're sharing with me, and I'm going to cover them today in this training. Okay, this is an eye-catching dollar amount, right? In 2017, the federal government awarded over $700 billion in grants. And in 2014, which is the most recent data I have here, the Foundation Center reported over $60 billion in foundation grants awarded that year. Looking at these numbers, grants are or should be a significant part of any nonprofit's revenue. But here is the reality, and this is an important reality to come to terms with when it comes to grant writing. 70% of grant applications submitted to new funders, that means funders you're applying with for the very first time, fail. That means only 30% are successful and 70% fail. They get rejected. That means some grant writer has spent hours, dozens of hours maybe, and then nothing happens. They have nothing to show for it. The good news? Well, there are so many factors that go into this award rate, but the best thing you can do and the only real strategy that you can control on your end is improving the quality of your program designs, the quality of your writing in the grant application, and the fit of the grants that you apply for. This is why I want to show you how to work on your grant writing in a studied, focused way, because many of these rejected grants, those that fall in that 70%, are so often because the grant writer just hasn't been trained in grant writing and doesn't have the strategy that will dramatically increase their chances of winning. But don't worry, I am here today to help you avoid being in that 70% failed statistic. Okay, now I have a quick story for you. If you don't know me, if you're new to me, you may not know that I am a grant writing consultant. I own Write Good, Grant Writing, and Communications for the Greater Good, and I work with clients around the country. So I want to share one quick client story with you all. I truly do remember it like it was yesterday. It was October 25th, 2016. And a new client had contacted me about writing a federal grant. They were a small community college program for my home state of West Virginia, and they knew that I specialized in this type of grant. So we scheduled our consultation call for November 1st. Within 3 days of that phone call, I had a signed contract to write a federal grant application for them. But here's the catch. This grant application, a federal grant application, was due on November 11th, 7 days from the date the contract began. Here is the project description and the date of service straight from our contract. So you can see my name up there. It was Krista Bryson. I got married, and it's changed now. But this is between me and Pierpont Community and Technical College. And it is for the research and writing of one Appalachian Regional Commission Power Grant pre-application. Now, the pre-application only had a few questions less than the full application, which I already knew because I had written several of these before. So normally when I wrote these, it was about 20 single-spaced pages of narrative. That doesn't count the attachments, the SF-424 and all those standard forms you have to fill out. It didn't include the budget. And finally, you can see at the end of this, the date of service was from November 4th to November 11th. Now, at this point in my business, I had never written a grant for this much money this quickly, and with a client I had never worked with before, ever. Most grant writers would tell you this was a losing proposition, an unreasonable request. The last time I wrote this, I spent several months working with a client to write this grant. And still, that last client's grant for way less money, and I mean way less, was not awarded. After all of that hard work, months of work, nothing. Now, you might be wondering, what was I thinking? Was I worried about doing this in 1 week? Was I stressed? Yeah. Not only that, I knew that this new client was taking on a big expense in hiring me, and the project was high stakes. If they didn't get the funding, one of their programs might run out of money. So why did I think this was worth the risk? How could I have possibly believed that I could pull this off in time and pull it off well? So what happened with that $1 million grant application I wrote in 1 week? It was awarded. The president of the college sent me this lovely thank you letter. My client won over $1 million from the Appalachian Regional Commission, and then taking that grant narrative and revising it a bit to work for another application through the Economic Development Administration, they later won an additional $700,000, all to work towards this one program. Their program went from struggling to keep going to racing to keep up with all of the funding they had coming in the door. They were new to grant writing, but I was able to help them plan their program and convey it artfully in the grant applications. And they became $1.7 million richer. I realized I had cracked the code with grant writing. I knew the formula, and I knew that I could do it again and again and more efficiently. And that's what I did. Grants can truly be the foundation of your revenue stream once you know how to do them right. Now, that doesn't mean everyone can win millions in 1 week. It means I have a system that I teach that is effective and replicable. You can have the most deserving community and cause, design the most effective approach to solving a problem, hire the most qualified staff. But if you don't have this one thing, you literally have zero chance of sustaining any part of your budget with grants. Your time and money is wasted. The good you want to do in the world is not happening. Applying for as many grants as you can does not guarantee you will win any of them. To get massive results from grants, the secret is to turn your grant writing process into a simple system based on a proven strategy. So here's what I'm going to teach you as we jump into the specifics. I'm going to teach you my 6-step complete grant writing system that starts with Step 1, searching and planning, Step 2, telling your story, Step 3, defining your need, Step 4, designing your program, Step 5, budgeting your program, and Step 6, the follow-up step. Ultimately, I want to show you how to win the next grant and the next grant and the next grant after that, and in larger amounts than you've ever won before. I want you to imagine the feeling if you were able to have a grant writing system in your nonprofit that generated revenue for you over and over again. I can tell you on behalf of my clients and on behalf of students I've worked with that it is a pretty amazing experience. Well, today is the day I am going to help you do just that. Let's start with Step 1. The searching and planning step, specifically finding grant makers that can't wait to fund your work. I am going to give you 3 proven search strategies that I use to design grant opportunity lists for my clients. I charge them thousands to do this, but I am going to teach you how to do it all on your own. The first strategy is to search grant databases. I know so many people and even big nonprofits that don't have access to grant databases, or they do have access, but they don't conduct strategic searches for grants. So many people just look out for grants in email announcements, word of mouth from colleagues, or free online resources. And these things are all fine, but they shouldn't be your primary search strategies. So your first tool is a grant database. Typically, you'll have to pay for access to a database like GrantStation, but I promise you it will come back to you more than tenfold in Grants One, because these databases allow you to be 100 times more strategic in your search with their advanced search features. And they include grant makers that you will not be able to find in a simple Google search. So they will save you time and money. So you can Google grant databases to find quite a few, but I highly recommend GrantStation, which is what I use for all of my clients and have been extremely successful with. You can also access the Foundation Center's grants database free at public libraries around the country. So if you just Google Foundation Center grant database, you will be able to find this, and you can find the best access point at a library near you. There is also grants.gov, which only has grants by the 26 federal granting agencies, but it has advanced search tools that will allow you to quickly find some great funding opportunities. Strategy number 2 is to research the grant maker's past awards. So once you find a few grant opportunities that look like a good fit to you, the key to getting into the grant making agency or foundation's head is to see what they have funded in the past 3 years. Now, I want to take a step back and say that these strategies apply no matter what kind of applicant you are: a nonprofit, an academic researcher, a government agency, a business, an individual artist. It depends on who the grant maker is, but you will almost always be able to see who they have awarded grants to recently. For federal grants, they always have a page with links to recent awardees or even a searchable database with that information. But for foundation awards, you can go to this website, Foundation Center's 990 Finder. If you just Google that, you will find this tool that allows you to search by the grant maker's name and state, or you can even search by their tax ID number if you know it. So that will pull up old tax forms that look like this. And here you can see who they have made grants to. Now, you need to take that information and evaluate it. So you look at awardees who have a similar organization size as you, a similar mission and strategy, and look at their geographic location and geographic scope. If these three things align, or maybe if there's a geographic gap, but it still looks like there's an opportunity to get an award there, this opportunity might be a great fit for you. Since this site also tells you how much was awarded, you can also look at those past award amounts and think about the size of the organizations that those were awarded to and determine how much you should request based on that number. And finally, contact the grant maker personally, whether that's through their letter of intent, which is like a pre-proposal that some grant makers require before applying for a grant, or through an email or phone call. This is the best way to save yourself time, money, and heartache. There is nothing worse than working like crazy on a grant application only to find out it was nowhere near a good fit to start with. Now, if they say don't contact us, don't contact them. Respect their wishes. But if they don't say anything like that on their website, go ahead and call or email, introduce yourself, your work, and the organization, program, or project you need funding for. Ask them politely if they would be interested in receiving a proposal from you. Then patiently await their response. If they don't get back to you soon or after just 1 or 2 emails, be persistent, don't give up. Taking the time to do this will help you endear yourself to the grant maker because not enough applicants really take the time to do this step. So if you do this and have a nice conversation with them before submitting an application, they will know you are serious and you have made that initial human connection that means so much to many grant makers. Remember, this strategy is all about developing relationships, and that takes more than a proposal to establish. Now, I want you to think about your next step. So in each of these strategies, I'm going to ask you to write down your next step, what you're thinking about doing. So do you need to get access to GrantStation? Do you need to go to your local public library? Do you know of a grant that you want and you want to go see who all has been awarded it? So you're going to go look them up on 990 Finder and see exactly how much they got and what program it was for. So write down your next step in your workbook or in your notes right now. Now, after you find that perfect grant opportunity for you, made your initial contact with your funder, got the okay, we're interested, please send us more, it's time to put on your storytelling hat for the history section of the proposal. So this is when you tell the funder about your reason for being. Whether you are part of an organization or applying as an individual, you likely have had some kind of aha moment. A founding story about how your organization came to do the work it does, or how you came to do the research or art or whatever it is that you do. So this is when you grab your reader's interest and maybe even their heartstrings, and everybody has a story. I want you to tell me in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10 how passionate you are about the funding of your organization or the story of how you came to the idea for your research, business, art, whatever awesome thing it is you do. A lot of people who are on this webinar are going to be saying 10. And I'm sure you have a great founding or aha story because you wouldn't be doing the work that can get funded if you didn't. Most people who work in this field are already super passionate about what they do. However, you have to be able to shape that story effectively so it's compelling not just to you, but to funders. So I want you to take your story and shape it using basic narrative structure. Why use this structure? As a rhetorician, I can tell you that narrative is one of the most effective means of conveying and eliciting emotion in your readers and creating trust and connection. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to put your story into an effective narrative structure that compels your reader to support the work that you do. The very first thing to employ this narrative structure is to set the scene for your story. This is known as the exposition. Then you have the complication, which is the need or the problem you've identified with a specific population or cause or field of research. Then you have the building of the problem, which can be through events or further discoveries you made about the problem. This is what's called the rising action. Then we have the climax or the tipping point, which really grabs the reader and makes them say, wow, this problem has an impact on people. Look at how it has affected them in this major way. Or maybe it offers a revelation about the cause of the problem that wasn't clear before. And then we have the falling action, which is the founding of your organization or the start of your research or the opening of your business or invention of a new technology. And of course, that's followed in narrative structure by the resolution, but we actually aren't going to show a resolution because we are still in the middle of solving the issue. If there were no problem, we wouldn't be asking for funding to solve it. Now, what you can do is imply a resolution, which is going to be the program, idea, or product that you're talking about. So let's see how this worked in a real-world example. Here is an example from a successful research and development grant application I wrote with a client for a grant meant to solve what's called the word gap, a language learning and development disparity found among low-income children. Now, this response is unique in that it relies on a bit of prior knowledge because this history question, or how did you arrive at your idea question, came towards the end of the application, so readers already knew a bit more about the problem and proposed solution. Usually, this will be among the first questions or sections in a grant application for nonprofits. But this is the story section that nearly every grant will ask you to do. So this is actually in the first person, which can be a bit unusual for some folks, but this is what they asked for in this particular grant, and we always follow the grant instructions. So here we go. My client started telling her story by setting the scene. She said, as an applied linguist, I research language acquisition and bilingualism. Currently, my team and I are conducting a study funded by the Kranis Innovation Fund, in which we are testing whether bilingualism helps premature born children in the area of executive function. Executive function regulates key cognitive processes, such as paying attention and reasoning. So this is the narrative's exposition. She is placing the reader within the field and even demonstrating a little authority by mentioning that she is already being funded for a research project by another funder. She explains the relevance of the research she's doing in that last sentence about what executive function does. So if you are using highly technical terms or subfield-specific theories, you need to be able to explain that in the section. Then she moves on to explain what her initial research has found, which is that there is actually another problem, that bilingualism and the higher executive functioning that comes with it rely upon children first being fluent in their home language or the language their families speak at home. Among her study participants, that language is Spanish. Further complicating this initial problem is that families are told by their doctors not to use Spanish at home, which she explains inhibits their attempts at raising their children bilingually. This section is the complication, the part that sparks readers' interest and gets them to think about how this is a problem that has not yet been adequately addressed. Then, after explaining the problem, she builds in tension in the story by telling a real-world micro-narrative about one of her friends. She says, the emphasis on English language acquisition and neglect of Spanish language acquisition is evident in daycare centers as well. Recently, I accompanied my friend to pick up her 18-month-old son from his daycare center in Miami. Their caregivers, who were Spanish speakers, only spoke English when interacting with the children. So this is the rising action. Our attention is heightened and we're waiting for the big revelation because we are so used to narrative structures that we know how to emotionally react and anticipate what's to come. Then her story comes to a tipping point. She says, their speech was not syntactically complex, so the words they're using were not complex, and it was made up of mostly one-word directives because it was a language in which they were less fluent. As the majority of the children at the daycare center were Hispanic, I asked, why are these caregivers not using their native language, Spanish? A caregiver explained to me, because we are expected to use English. So, in this section, she uses quotes to build up to a revelation or a climax. These caregivers are made to use English by their employers, even though it's harming the language acquisition of the children that they're caring for. And she uses quotes here. And even if you're not using a first person narrative, you can definitely incorporate dialogue into your history section. Following the climax portion of the narrative, we see the falling action, which is my client brainstorming ways to increase language exposure to Hispanic infants. She says, "These experiences and interactions with people in the community encouraged me to brainstorm innovative means to raise awareness about the importance of bilingualism and language exposure to Hispanic infants. I decided to create Habla Me Bebe," so this is a language acquisition app for your phone, "because it would be engaging, easy, and accessible to multiple stakeholders such as parents, relatives, and daycare center workers." This is the falling action. Even though we don't have a resolution yet, it's implied in that potential creation of the phone application Habla Me Bebe, which will help address this problem. And we also have the implied resolution within that as well. So there you have it, an incredibly effective and compelling story that won a huge federal grant competition. This is Dr. Melissa Baralt. She wrote that wonderful story about how she came up with the idea for Habla Me Bebe, and she had never won a grant before, ever, before she came to me first as a client and then as a student because she wanted to learn what I was doing in those grant applications we were working on together. And after having never won a grant before and being really discouraged about it, she beat out over 75 competitors with this grant application to win the grand prize. And these were competitors from all over the country. She won $110,000 in academic research and development grants. And this is what she said about working together as a client and as a student. Now, I want you to think about what your next step is in telling your unique story. So, if you want to, you can draw out this narrative arc triangle and you can plot out your own story using that, so that even if you have a great story, you make sure that it follows a narrative arc that will easily convey that story and its importance to your readers. Now we're going to talk about how to prove the urgency and significance of your work and skyrocket your success rate. In this step, we're talking about providing an expert level explanation of the need or problem your work will be addressing. Now, I'm going to show you an example from that same research and development grant for Habla Me Bebe, and we're using that because, first of all, Dr. Barald is kind enough to let us use it in this really public platform, but also because it's short, to the point, yet still extremely effective in demonstrating the principles that I use to help my clients and students be successful. So let's jump right in. Now, in this step, you really do have to do a good bit of work, but I promise you it is going to be worth it, because this is the section of your proposal that will really set you apart from the novices and put you at the pro level. In your statement of needs section or your problem statement section, you absolutely must include and properly cite secondary research. And if you can, if at all possible, primary research. So secondary research, if you don't know, is research you can find in books, articles, and government statistics. This is research using data that you didn't collect and analyze yourself. So it's best to use research that is peer-reviewed, up-to-date, and rooted in widely accepted theory in the field. Primary research is the research you did by going out and collecting the quantitative or qualitative data yourself. So if you have some prior research or have been doing work in this nonprofit sector for some time, you can talk about your previous research or program participants and the statistics you've collected on them over the years. Primary research is great for establishing need in your specific region or among your specific population that might not already be covered in the secondary research. And that leads us into the second strategy for the Statement of Needs section, which is proving there is a gap in the field. That means you have found a problem that either isn't being addressed for a specific demographic or geographic location, or isn't being addressed with an adequate strategy. And finally, you need to use this section to demonstrate your expertise by citing the most important sources on this issue, showing you understand them well, and that you can use the data and theories from them to design a smart and effective solution. Now, let's jump into our example. Okay, so this is the Statement of Need section from the Habla Me Bebé grant that we've been looking at, and it begins this way. In order for Hispanic children to develop basic communicative oral skills in English, these skills need to be consolidated in their maternal language as well. There are many cognitive benefits to this type of sequential bilingualism, some that even help reduce the academic risks associated with low socioeconomic status. Now, first off, don't let all of this language scare you. Again, this is based in academic research. However, I will say that you do need to have some facility with the research on your topic. So here, she has quickly summarized the problem and the theoretical solution to the problem in just these 2 sentences. So you can do the exact same thing by taking overall findings of research and incorporating them right into your own argument in your own words and use these in-text citations to show that you know your stuff. So here she is really demonstrating her secondary research and her expertise. Now, after explaining the problem, she provides the impetus for solving it, saying it is imperative to promote awareness about these facts. As Hispanics are the fastest growing minority group in the US and make up 30% of those living in poverty, their word gap must be addressed. Apps can be enormously successful in promoting vocabulary growth in children if they generate talk time. So again, this is abbreviated, and if I were writing a longer proposal, I would unpack that statement about the relationship between low language acquisition and poverty. But she makes the point effectively and quickly here and uses that secondary research to support her argument. Next, she explicitly tells her readers what's missing. Some apps do exist for this purpose. She lists them here. Daily Room educates, encourages talk time, and gives conversation ideas. Talk With Me Baby is an app currently being developed. Both, however, are in English. Neither incorporates tracking capacity to monitor talk time or vocabulary growth. Habla Me Bebé will be the first app to do so. Here she is giving us the gap in the field that she is going to fill with her app. So the lack of an application that focuses on Spanish-speaking families with children is where she finds her space to innovate. There it is, a highly compelling statement of need in just 3 slides. If she can do it, so can you. And you don't have to be a professor or PhD to be able to write this stuff. So what is your next step? What is it that you need to research to prove your need? So I want you to just take a second, jot down just a few words about what topic you think you need to research, or maybe a connection between a cause and an effect. So write down in your workbook or in your notes what it is that you need to prove and you need to do research on. All right, so now we are on to step 4, which is designing an impeccable program that will rise to the top of that grant application pile. The reason we really have to focus on the program design is because sometimes you are creating a new program or project in response to a specific grant opportunity, and also because sometimes you have a great program, but with some small improvements, it could become a stellar program that grant makers can't wait to put their names behind. So in this step, you need to first have inspiring but realistic objectives. So let's take a look at one of the goals of the Spanish language app we've been using as an example. Their long-term goal is to increase the Spanish and English vocabulary of children in the experimental group. To make this an objective, we want to quantify the goal and add a date or time period for completion. Now, I'm not a linguist, so I can't speak to whether this is a realistic objective for 12 months, but you need to be sure of that. And you need to do it by basing your objectives in research. So benchmark them and figure out what is realistic. To this goal of increase the Spanish and English vocabulary of children in the experimental group, we have added by 10% after 12 months of app use. So this makes it an objective. Next, you need to connect each goal and objective to a strategy that you will use to accomplish that goal and objective. The best and easiest way to do this is to use a logic model. Whether you use an online template or whether you just sketch this out by hand, it can really help you design a thorough program. So let's take a look at a real example from our language app grant. Now, in this case, you'll notice there are several columns here: inputs, activities, measures, outcomes. And they did have an objectives column, but my client worked one-on-one with one of their grant officers and she did not have her use that objective column. So I've just eliminated it here. So an objective is like a goal with a strategy attached to it. So here we don't have objectives, but we do have the activities all listed out. So let's take a look at how we've used this logic model. Here you can see that each outcome on the right-hand side, the short, medium, and long term, all correspond to the inputs and resources that then support the activities that will then be evaluated for their effectiveness by the measures. So the idea behind a logic model is that it allows us to posit a theory of change. If we have funding to design the app, the research participants and researchers to do the research project, and the cell phones with the app on them to facilitate that project, those are all of our inputs, then we can connect those one-to-one to those activities of conducting the research. Then they have a list of all the strategies that they will use to measure the effectiveness of those activities. All of this will then result in the short-term outcomes of people being engaged with the app and therefore talking to their children more in their first language, which then will result in medium and long-term outcomes of increased Spanish and English vocabulary among children, reducing the word gap. See how that works? Nothing is left out, nothing is assumed. So this then allows you to make if-then statements. So the if-then statements implied in your logic model can then be translated into your actual narrative section of your program design. For example, if caregivers are prompted to speak with their babies on a regular basis, then they will increase their talk time and interaction in their heritage language with their babies. Then the next logical step is going to be, when they do this, they increase their children's vocabulary in their heritage language and reduce the word gap. There's a logical progression between all of these statements. So even though this is from Dr. Baralt's grant, I want to talk about one of our students who has benefited from working on her program design through our course. So this is Nicole Odom with the W.E.B. Du Bois Child Education Center, and her nonprofit was around for about a year, and she was struggling to fund any of its programs. So she had never written a grant before and didn't even know where to start. But after working with us in our course, she won a series of small community foundation and corporate grants. With this $10,000 in startup program funding, she ran her first summer STEM camp for disadvantaged students. And I'm telling you her story because you can start small. And when you are a new nonprofit, starting small is what you will have to do. But that doesn't mean you can't get funding. People will tell you can't get funding. That's not the case. Yes, it may take some time, but it is possible. And I wanted to share Nicole's story with you so that you would know that. Now, I want you to think about what your next step is in developing a stronger program design. Even if you think your program couldn't be any better, I want you to try to connect it to some concrete objectives or outcomes. I want you to come up with ways to measure your success. And even if you do already have ways to measure your success, I want you to think of a few more. So if you're collecting surveys, maybe you can also do interviews. Maybe you can track your participants for longer after they exit your program. So maybe your next step and what you want to write down here is that you want to work through your own logic model to make sure that there are no gaps and that you've left no stone unturned. All right, we're getting to the end. Hang in here with me. We need to talk about how to create an airtight budget. Now, usually this is the first major section overall that they read. And I often see that a weak budget is one of the biggest limiting factors for grant proposals. So let's jump right in. When you're thinking about your budget, I want you to make sure that each and every program strategy that you have listed in that logic model also has all of the corresponding expenses enumerated. The best way to do this is to create a T-chart. For example, if we are going to develop this language learning app, we need to determine what language strategies will work in the app. So that is going to require us to hire a researcher. We're also going to have to develop app functionality and design the app visuals. That requires us to hire app developers and designers. Okay, and then if we want to conduct research on the app's impact on the word gap, we need to get new participants, provide them with access to the app, meet with them at regular intervals. And all of that requires a team, and we have listed out each line item and how much that is going to cost. Even though this seems simple, I promise you, once you get in the trenches, you are going to forget some of the things that you need to cover. So you need to check that you have matched every strategy with an expense. Next, you need to benchmark your expenses. This step eliminates a big obstacle for many of my clients and students, which is that they have no idea how much anything costs, and often they simply guess. Let me tell you right now, that is not the way to go. This is what your grantmaker does all day, every day, review budgets. So if an expense sounds like way too much or way too little, it is a red flag and could very well be the end of the life of your proposal. Do your research, check online, reach out to people in your network who do similar work, reach out to the grant maker even if you can to see what expenses they find reasonable. Sometimes they can and will give you guidance on this. And not only that, if you're buying equipment or hiring contractors, you need to get quotes in advance. Come into the budget with as much knowledge as you possibly can. And finally, in your budget and your proposal, so you might also have a budget justification beyond just the line item listing. You need to show evidence of sustainability. This comes into the revenue part of the budget equation, in which you show other sources of incoming funding. That could be earned income, other grants, donors, or other means. This can be difficult when you're unsure about your funding, but it will actually go a long way with funders because they want to see work sustained and don't want to be expected to sustain it alone. Here you might actually need to do some background hustling to get other grants or funding. Maybe you can go to your biggest funder and say, if we get this $250,000 grant, can you commit to a matching donation of $50,000? That way, if you don't get the grant, there's no commitment. But if you do, the donor donates and they get the prestige of being affiliated with a program winning big grants. This does require some behind-the-scenes work, but I promise you, it is incredibly important to grant makers. Okay, I'm not going to share an example from this one of a client or student, but I want to ask you, what is your next step when it comes to the budget? Do you need to get really clear on your expenses? Do you need to confirm your revenue and all of your organizational budget information? Do you need to get quotes from contractors and equipment providers? So right now, I just want you to write down, what is your next step when it comes to your budget? All right, we are now in the last step, which is how to follow up with grant makers to develop a long-lasting relationship, which is the key to winning grants again and again, or even for the first time. Win or lose, you always send a follow-up thank you email. Be kind and gracious. Remember, if you don't get the grant, and you will not win every single grant, that's just the reality of grant writing, it is not a reflection on you or the quality of your work. There are so many factors that go into their decisions. All you can do is show up as your very best, which I have been teaching you to do throughout this masterclass. The second thing you should do is respectfully ask for any feedback they're able to provide with regards to your application. Keep the request that simple. You don't need to add any explanation or justification to your request for feedback. And finally, see if they would be willing to be on your email newsletter list or receive mailings from you so they can keep up with what you're doing. This is how you keep them interested and stay front of mind over time, even if you didn't get the grant. But again, be nice, and if they say no, thank them and just move on. Now, when you do win a grant, and you will because you have carefully followed my strategies, you need to send the grant maker a formal thank you letter signed by your executive director or yourself if you're applying independently. Since that will take some time to get to them, if they also send you an email notification of the award, send them a thank you email with a thank you letter attached. Then you need to show them some love on social media, in a press release, on your website, and in print materials, depending on the kind of work you do. For example, if you're a performing arts organization, you can list them as a sponsor on your programs. And finally, if you're required to do grant reporting and/or site visits, put just as much work and consideration into those efforts as you did the proposal, because these evaluative methods will factor into their decision whether to continue funding you in the future. I want you to think about what your next step is in regard to this strategy. What is it that you need to improve upon or think about doing maybe for the first time when it comes to following up with grant makers? Maybe you need to write a form thank you letter that you could use for any grant maker and just make slight adjustments to. I want you just to write down. All right, you've just gotten a crash course in my 6 simple steps to writing successful grants. Now, I'm not exactly sure why you showed up to this webinar today, but I'm going to venture a guess. Maybe you're tired of trying to figure out every grant writing trick or tactic that hits your inbox. That's exhausting. Or maybe you want to do more of what you love, which is probably serving your community, conducting research, creating innovative solutions to problems, and less of what kills your vibe, which is desperately trying to get funding. Or maybe you showed up here today because deep down in your heart, you know that using a grant writing system is the key to sustaining your work while finally creating a bigger impact, generating more revenue, and building more freedom into your work. Now, because you showed up here today, I also know 3 things about you. First of all, you are a highly motivated person willing to put in the work to get the results you want. Next, I know that you are a bit of a risk taker and you like taking calculated risks that you know are likely to pay off. And finally, I know that you make significant investments in yourself, both of time and money, in order to improve your skills, knowledge, and impact. Now it's time for you to get the funding you deserve by becoming that next level grant writer that you're ready to be. It's time for you to learn a system that takes all the guesswork out of grant writing and secures your nonprofit, government agency, or research with a successful, repeatable, and scalable flood of revenue. It's your time. You've shown up here today, you've done the work, you've taken the notes, you're excited about this opportunity. I want you to know that grants can change your nonprofit, your academic research, or even your government agency. But you've got to know exactly what to do in order to create a solid grant writing system. And that's where I come in. Remember, nothing I've shared with you today is theory. I've used every single one of these strategies to win millions of dollars in grants for my clients, and my students have done the same. Now, did it happen overnight? Heck no. Did it take a few years? Oh yeah. Did it take a lot of trial and error? For sure. But what I'm most excited about is it doesn't have to take you years to figure it out. And it doesn't have to take all of that painful trial and error that I went through. I would have given anything for someone to teach me all of this years ago and say, let's skip all of that confusion. Let me show you exactly what you need to do. One thing I know for sure is that anyone who can write can implement this. I wish I had access to exclusive resources or grantmaker contacts, but I don't. I just have a system that works. I mean it when I say, if I can do this, you can too. So, do you want to know how I wrote a successful $1 million grant application in just 7 days? Do you want to know how to win more than ever on your next grant application? The obvious question is, how do I make all of this work so I can get up and running quickly? Well, there are two options really. There's complicated and confusing and takes you a lot of trial and error, probably years to get it right. Or there is simple and strategic, which is what I'm offering you inside my Grant Writing Made Easy course. Grant Writing Made Easy is the complete A to Z blueprint for creating a high-converting grant writing system that floods your grant list with perfect opportunities, builds massive trust and value with grant makers through your writing, and puts your funding on autopilot. Grant Writing Made Easy is the absolute fastest way to get big results with your grant proposals. Here is what you will create in the course: a comprehensive grant opportunity list full of grant makers who would love to fund your work, a complete grant proposal that will wow funders, an easy system personalized to you for writing new grant proposals that will save you hundreds of hours of work, and a stronger program or project design that will help you get much bigger grants. I'm talking 6 figures plus. So here is a quick overview of what is in this course, and you'll notice that each of these modules correspond one-to-one to the 6 simple steps that I just taught you. First, we have Module 1, Grant Search, Fit, and Planning. This is the longest module. There is a lot to planning, a lot to finding the right grants, but I'm going to teach you everything you need to know and how to focus on the ones that you are most likely to win. Next, we have the organizational or individual history. So individuals if you're applying as an artist or individual researcher. And in this section, you're going to learn how to tell a compelling story while still getting all of the necessary facts in there. In Module 3, we are talking statement of need. So this is statement of need or problem statement, and this is where you make your argument for the problem that you are addressing, that your work is going to solve. It involves a lot of research, but because I have a PhD in rhetoric and composition, this is what I do, and this is what I used to teach university writing courses in. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do incredibly compelling research writing. In Module 4, we have program design, and this is where experience in the nonprofit world really comes into play, and I teach you how to design more effective programs that are going to reach the outcomes that you tell grant makers you're going to reach. This is not just important for after you receive the grant, it's important for before you even apply. Because trust me, grant makers can tell when you've just thrown something together and it's not well thought out. I'm going to teach you how to avoid that. Then we have Module 5, which is logic, model, and budget. So your logic model checks those if-then statements that we were talking about earlier and validates your program design. And then the budget is that necessary piece that most writers don't like to do, but I'm going to teach you all the different techniques for different types of budgets that you will come across. And then last, we have Module 6, which is all the little details, things you may not have thought about when you started writing the grant, but you need to know, like how to do an abstract or executive summary, how to write a thank you letter. We give you all of that with templates in this module. And I have had students tell me that they not only use this for grants, but that they got meetings with event sponsors just based on the letters that they learned to write in this module. So here's what we're offering. We have 3 different plans: Basic, Pro, and Expert. And here is what each of them are worth. Basic is worth $2,373. Pro is worth $2,973. And the Expert level really bumps it up and is worth $6,151. So what is in Grant Writing Made Easy Basic? The complete course is 11 core instructional videos that explain the principles of each grant section in plain language and take you through real-life grant examples. These videos also have transcriptions so that if you need to read instead of listen, you can do that. In the course, we also have 250 plus pages of workbooks, templates, cheat sheets, and grant examples that include everything you need to draft a successful grant, track grant opportunities, organize your work, and develop excellent relationships with funders. You'll also get 5 peer review packets, so you get the most effective revision suggestions ever with our guided reviews. one for each of our 4 main grant sections, plus 1 complete review sheet to exchange with a partner in class when you're done. You also have an advanced module, apart from the 6 core modules, that is on state, federal, international, and academic grants. So, ready to take the basic skills that you learn throughout the rest of the course and go to that next level with million-dollar grants? This section shows you how. You also get bonus number 1, which is 30 days of writing exercises. This is a $97 value, and this is really going to level up your writing skills so your grant proposals really stand out from the rest. You also get bonus number 2, which is the private members-only Facebook group, and this is a $297 value. So you get instant access to this closed-door group where I do regular Facebook Live Q&As. You'll gain unlimited insight by arranging peer review exchanges of your grant drafts and just asking others about grant opportunities, advice, anything you can think of about grants. This is a friendly and approachable group of like-minded grant writers who want to help each other. Now, if you decide you want to go to the next step, Grant Writing Made Easy Pro, you get everything I just told you about plus 1 more big bonus worth $600. And that is our exclusive discount to GrantStation. GrantStation is a grants database for the US, Canada, and some international grants. And it is normally $699 for an annual membership. But we have an exclusive deal with them that allows you to get an annual membership for $99 year-round. So if you want to go pro and implement all of the database search skills that I teach you in Module 1, this is the package for you. Now, if you really want to level up, here is the next step, and that is Grant Writing Made Easy Expert. Everything I just showed you in Grant Writing Made Easy Pro, which is a $2,973 value, plus 2 giant bonuses at a value of $3,375. So that first bonus is 11 live writing workshops online with me and your classmates. Each year you have this for the lifetime of the course. So each month, this gives you the opportunity to get your grant drafted, revised, or edited live in class with me and other students. Together, we will learn in this live writing session how to write the best proposal for any given opportunity. I'm revising it live with you while asking questions, and you actually get to see how I think and how I write so that you are able to learn and replicate that on your own. Students have told me this is the most valuable part of the course. It's also so rare for an online course like this to have both permanent content that you can access right away at any time, as well as regular live classes that allow you to see and talk to other students in the course and the instructor and get feedback from all of us. We have had some of the most incredible learning moments together in these live courses because you get the benefit of talking to other people with experience in grant writing and the nonprofit world. And finally, if you purchase before this webinar is over, you will receive this fast action bonus, and only you will get it, a 30-minute grant strategy session with me. We can talk about how to get started with grants, or your particular pain points and how to overcome them, or even review part of your grant application together. This is a $75 value, and it's something that I'm only offering now during this webinar. You're not going to be able to get it later. So if you join me at the expert level before this webinar is over, you will get this 30-minute session with me. And you can schedule it on your own time frame. So if you don't want to do it right away, if you want to wait till you're done with the course and have written your complete grant application, we can definitely do it then. So again, here is the total value for each of these levels. Basic is $2,373. Pro, with that $600 GrantStation coupon, is $2,973, and Expert is $6,151. But I can't charge you that. Remember, I created this course so that the skills of grant writing could be accessible to anyone. So here's what you'll pay today. Right now, you can get the basic course for $197, the Pro course for $297, and the Expert for $497. So basic is normally $297, Pro is normally $497, and Expert minus the fast action bonus is $797. So you're going to get a huge discount if you join us today. And this is a one-time payment. It's not an annual membership. You don't have to make multiple payments of this. It's a one-time payment. You get in the course, you get all of this content, and you never have to pay anything else. So I have a quick question for you, or questions. If all this course did was finally get you just one successful grant application that brought in $10,000, would it be worth it? If all this course did was lower your grant writing costs to a few $100s, rather than paying up to $150 an hour to hire a contractor or $50,000 a year to hire a full-time grant writer, would it be worth it? If all this course did was help you get in front of more grant makers who are invested in your mission and pique their interest in your work, would it be worth it? If you can say yes to any one of these questions, I encourage you to get started today for just $197. Again, the basic is $197. It's going to go up to $297 after this offer is over. All you have to do is click on the offer link that is popping up on your screen now. And when you do this, you'll be taken straight to an order form that looks like this. First, you'll choose which level you want to join: Basic, Pro, or Expert. And when you go to the checkout page, whenever you click on each one of these, you'll see what's included with each change at the bottom. So you can see, again, what you get with each level of course membership. Then all you have to do is enter your contact and payment information, and we use SamCart, which is a verified, safe way to process your credit card info. Again, all of these are one-time payments that give you lifetime access. There are no recurring payments to keep your access to the course. After you complete your checkout, you should be taken to the members area, which looks like this. And that is where you will set up your new password. You'll also get an email from us reminding you of the link to log in and other course details. Again, I want to remind you, if you want to get started right now, everything is available. There's no wait time. The sign-up process is all automated, so you can get started within just minutes. Now, I also want you to know that there is a guarantee. If within 30 days of purchasing the course, you are unsatisfied with the results, all you have to do is show me you did the work and I will give you a full refund. This is all guaranteed in the terms and conditions of purchase. But just remember, if you ask within 30 days, you're going to have to turn in all your completed workbooks, your 30 writing exercises, your grant search results, and your completed grant narrative. I need to see it all in order to really know that you did the work. Now, why am I doing this? Why do I have such a tight refund policy and I don't allow refunds after 30 days? It's because in my heart of hearts and from all of my experience with students, I know that if you actually show up, do the work, and stick with it, you will write winning grant proposals. But if you don't do the work, or you don't even log into the course and you ask for a refund, that's not fair because you didn't actually show up and say, I'm going to give it my all. And I want to attract people who are A-list players. They're going to get in there and do the work. So in order for me to attract the perfect person to this program, someone who is sure that they are going to get in there and do the work, I needed to make a really strict refund policy. So I need you to be aware of that before you buy. And there is a terms and conditions checkbox on the checkout page that you have to click and make a legally binding agreement that you will abide by this refund policy. So if you believe in yourself, if you believe in this course and what I've taught you, and you think that you've already gotten tremendous value from the little tiny bit that I've taught you just today, here is what you're going to get, again, inside the course. If you join at the basic level, you will get the full Grant Writing Made Easy course, a $1,782 value. And I've had students tell me that this portion alone was better than any university course that they took on the same topic, and it was thousands of dollars more. With the basic plan, you'll also get bonus number 1, which is 30 days of writing exercises, a $97 value. And you'll get bonus number 2, instant access to the members-only Grant Writing Made Easy Facebook group, a $297 value. That's a total value of $2,373. And today you can get all of that for $197. All you have to do is click on that offer button that's popping up now. Now, if you want to join us at the pro level, you're going to get all of this same content as well as an extra bonus, a $600 coupon for GrantStation. So the total value of the pro membership is $2,973. Again, today it's only a tenth of that price at $297. And if you are really going for it and you want to go with the expert membership, you are also going to get bonus number 4, 11 live writing workshops each and every year for a total of $3,300 just in that first year. So that's all I can even count. If you come to every class, that is the value you're going to get. And if you join today, before this webinar is over, if you click on that offer button now, you also get the fast action bonus, a 30-minute grant strategy session with me, which is a $75 value. So the total value of the expert version is $6,151. But you can get this today for $497. Now, this fast action bonus, I have this highlighted in teal because I don't even give this anymore if you join outside of this promotional period, because I just don't have the time at this point to do 30-minute grant strategy sessions with everyone. So this is something you can only get right now. If you choose to join us later at this full version of the course with the writing workshops, it's going to be more money, $797, and you can't get this 30-minute session with me. So this is, again, $6,151 value, but I'm giving it to you today for $497, just a one-time payment. You don't have to pay anything else ever again. Okay, so let's review really quickly. The basic version today is only $197. The pro version is only $297, and the expert version is only $497. You can see the normal prices listed in red over on the left-hand side. So you're getting a substantial amount off for each version of this today. Now, if you need help ordering or have questions and need help to make a decision on this, I want you to email us. I don't want anyone signing up for this course who doesn't need it or isn't sure if it will help them. I have even taken the step of having folks send me their previous grant applications, and I will look at it and tell you if you'll benefit from this course. And I have told people no. I have said, I don't think you'll benefit from this course. This is the level you're at. And if you really want to do something together, we can as a client. But I don't want anyone in this course who is not going to improve either their grant search skills or their grant writing skills or their program planning skills. So email us at support@writegoodcode.com. And if you go to our course checkout page, you'll see that there is a chat box in the bottom right-hand corner. If you have a question about whether this is a good fit for you, put it there and we will answer you. Now, here is another big concern that I get from people, and it's I can't afford it right now. So this is a legitimate concern. I will say that I have made this course as affordable as I possibly can. I used to sell this only for $497 or 6 payments of $97, which comes out to $582. But I have made these basic, pro, and expert level versions of the course so that you can come in at the level you can afford. And if you want to upgrade later, you can. So if you want to start with the basic and later go up to the pro or expert level, all you have to do is email us at support@writegoodcode.com and we can help you with that. Now, another thing, if you can't even afford the $197, is I suggest that you contact someone who needs help with grant writing and say, can you help me pay for this course? And once I complete it, I will help you write the grant that you need written. It's kind of like a sponsorship. So get someone to help you pay for this if you need to, and promise them that you will help them with a grant in the future. Now, another common thing that I hear is, I don't have time to take the course right now. And that's fine. You can join the course today at this $197 price point and start at any time you want. So if you want to get in the course at this discounted rate, you can go ahead and join and start later. The other thing I want you to consider when it comes to not having time is how much time are you wasting not knowing where to find grants, not knowing which one to go for because you can't tell if it's a good fit, not knowing how to answer the grant questions, not knowing how to improve your writing so that it really stands out, it's clear and concise and persuasive. So this course to me is really a huge time saver and money saver for you. Now, I will tell you the course's work. You're not going to jump into it and have everything done for you. You have to put in the time and effort to learn the principles and practice them. But we are here to hold your hand through that process. That's why I created this course. This is a quote from one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert, and she says, "It's a simple and generous rule of life that whatever you practice, you will improve at." So, I'm here offering you this opportunity not only to get my strategies and secrets for grant writing that have helped me win millions for clients and help students do the same, but to also help you practice it enough that you will improve at it and practice it efficiently and effectively. With that inspirational quote, we are going to move into the final few minutes. So, if you want to join the course, make sure you get in now before the fast action bonus ends soon. If you have questions, again, you can email us at support@writegoodcode.com, or you can chat with us in the chat box on the checkout page. So while we're finishing up and you're getting signed up for the course, I want to leave you with some quotes from our lovely students who have joined recently and are already having success and seeing results from the course. Heather Morrigue from Wild Rose United Church said, "I wanted to let you know that I wrote a grant for our upcoming arts festival. This was just after watching the webinar, not even taking the full course yet. And our team is one of 10 finalists who will pitch our project to a live audience to win our grant based on popular vote. We are very excited and grateful for the teaching already acquired from your course." So, this was after they took the webinar, applied these principles, and then they bought the course and were just getting started, and they got this great opportunity. Then we have Ginger Anya Dela, founding artistic director of New City Stage Company. So this is a theater, a performing arts organization. And she said, she's a very accomplished writer too, by the way. Ginger said, "I actually have a certificate in fundraising from NYU, but this course is already providing more value than what I got from them for $3,000 a class." So I was thrilled when she told me that, because if I didn't mention this already, I do have a PhD in rhetoric and composition, which means I taught university writing for years. And so to know that this course provides even more than that university course and from NYU, that made me feel great, and I'm so proud to be able to provide that testimonial. And then finally, here is a quote from Trina Boyd, founder of Women Empower Inc., and she's always in her Facebook group sharing her wins, and she recently shared this with us. She said she got approved for another grant through Walmart. She's so excited, and she said this check is bigger than the last one. So we love hearing these success stories and sharing them with you. Okay, that is it for today's webinar. I want to thank you all so much for being here today. Even if you didn't join the course, I'm glad you're here, and I hope you got some value from this webinar. That is all I can really ask for. And if you're ready to take that next step, I hope you take it with us, because we're ready to help. And for those of you who joined the course, thank you so much. I cannot wait to see you in the live workshops and in the Facebook group. And please let me know if you have any questions or need anything in the meantime. And until next time, good luck with your grant writing.